Hey guys, so today I want to go through the macronutrient of fat. I'm going to keep this very simple and practical for you today. The last 2 weeks we've gone through protein. Protein is arguably still the most important macronutrient to get right when we're doing strength training and we're trying to change our body composition. And then carbohydrate is also very important to understand, especially for performance. Now, fat. Why do we need it in our diet? The main reason we need it in our diet is for hormone creation. The majority of our hormones are made through fat. Now, what sort of fats should you be focusing on? There's different fats have different names because of the different formation, okay? Because of different molecules being bonded together. Ones for you to focus on are called monounsaturated. These are things like olive oils, nuts, seeds, avocados, that sort of thing. If we focus on those, we'll also be getting a bit of a spectrum of the other fats that we need, like polyunsaturated. So there has been evidence, very clear evidence actually, that has shown the more fat we have in a diet, there's actually a linear increase with testosterone as one example, and testosterone has been shown to be one of the most important hormones in changing our body composition. It's not just for men, it's also very important for women for body composition in terms of gaining some muscle and losing fat. It's a very anabolic hormone. So the more fat you have in your diet, okay, especially focusing on like monounsaturated from the natural sources, then the better off we're going to be in terms of body composition. Some other things around fat for you to take note of. There's been a lot of research around fish oil, which is a polyunsaturated fat. Now, fish oil, largely DHA and EPA, which is one of the two fatty acids that make up fish oil per se, have been shown to really promote healthy body composition through a couple of reactions such as increased insulin sensitivity, decreased inflammation, and it's also very, very great for our joints, for our heart health, and a whole spectrum of other factors. So in terms of how much fats should we be getting in our diet, it really depends on your carbohydrate intake. So first of all, we want to get that protein intake right. Okay, if you go back to the protein video, we're sort of talking about a blanket recommendation of roughly, in the scenario of doing some consistent strength training, we want to be looking at very, very roughly around about 2 grams per kilogram that you weigh, okay, as a sort of blanket recommendation. But if you do go back there, it goes into a little more detail with that. So that's obviously going to set an energy amount for you to be hitting per day. And then carbohydrate, we also looked at different amounts depending on depending on how active you are. So then with fat, most of the research is actually around as a percentage of your total daily calorie intake rather than how many grams you should be having per kilo that you weigh. So as a couple of blanket recommendations, if you would be in the more unhealthy body weight range, you're going to be looking at trying to get fat between 35 and 40% of your daily intake. That's what most of the research shows is going to be best for you. So 35 to 40% of your calories from fat. So let's say you're on 2,000 calories per day. That's going to mean something like, what are we at? How's our maths here? 40%, I should be able to do this, so up to about 800 calories from fat. And what it's important to note is that fat is very dense, okay? It has 9 calories per gram versus protein and carbohydrate, which has 4 calories per gram. So that's if we're on the unhealthy side of things in terms of our weight, okay? And this is going to help actually promote satiety so we're not getting as hungry, because fat does do that. It does promote us feeling full, and therefore we're going to be less likely to overeat. Okay, that's one of the big reasons why we increase fat when we're actually trying to lose weight. If you're very lean already and therefore have maybe quite a high carb consumption, then we want to be looking at something between 15 to 25% of your daily calories from fat. Now, we don't want to go anything less than sort of about 15% for too long, because that's when we can start running into troubles with our health, basically, because we're not producing the right amount of certain hormones. So that's a little bit of a rundown of the fats to focus on, the amounts that we should be getting. And then a couple of other points to understand is that, with fat, there is different mechanisms that we go through. Okay, one of these things to be aware of is the turnover rate in fat production. So the turnover rate in fat production is just like the turnover rate with protein synthesis versus protein breakdown that we spoke about in the protein video. With protein, we're always going through a process of either gaining muscle or losing muscle. With fat, we're always going through a process of either gaining fat or losing fat. That gaining fat is from lipogenesis, which is basically an increase in fat cell size, okay? Or we're going through lipolysis, which is basically breaking down fat. So obviously if we're trying to lose fat, okay, by going into a calorie deficit, an energy deficit, we're going to be more likely on that latter. Whereas if we're in a surplus, we're going to be more likely in lipogenesis. That is the formation of fat. Now, when we gain fat, it's not that we increase our the number of our fat cells, it's just simply that we increase the fat cell size. And we can do this, okay, when we have a calorie surplus, and that can be from eating too much carbohydrate, or it can be from eating too much fat, and it can also be from eating too much protein. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of a rundown. Main things to take home is focus on those monounsaturated fats. Don't be scared of fats. And also, one thing that I didn't mention is that there is a lot of that research around polyunsaturated fats, really focusing on fish oil being two main fatty acids there, DHA and EPA. And a lot of really, really positive things happen with our body composition with increased fish oil consumption, up to a maximum of about 3 grams per day. Now that's 3 grams of combined DHA and EPA, not of fish oil in total. So most fish oil is going to be about 300, maybe 500 milligrams of DHA and EPA combined in a capsule. So you can see that we can go, quite a high dose, or what feels like quite a high dose of the recommended amount, and we still get a lot of benefits for body composition, brain health, joint health. And one other note around polyunsaturated fats is that even though there's a lot of plant sources are high in polyunsaturated fats, we actually don't absorb those very well at all. So if you don't eat fish, okay, fatty fish isn't part of your diet, or if you don't want to use fish oil as a supplement, then look at maybe getting some algae, an algae supplement, because if we're just relying from plants, we actually really don't absorb it very well. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. Shoot me any questions if you have any, and we'll go from there. Remember, protein number 1. Get that amount right first each day, and then depending on whether you're trying to lose weight, if you are, set your fat around about 35 to 40% as a good sort of general guidelines. If you're not trying to lose fat, you can go lower, 15 to 25%, and then have a look at the carbohydrate intake as well, what we spoke about in that carb video. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. I'll see you soon.